Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 94 of the Road to 2K on chess.com. Today we're sitting at 1895, and we're trying to reach 1900 once again. And it looks like we'll get our chance against a 1914 from, I believe that is Italy. So we play e4, and they go ahead and they play c5, the Sicilian. So let's go ahead. Let's play the Alpine Sicilian today. It's a lot I've been looking at a little bit more. There's a lot of traps, a lot of tricks. Now this line is the theoretical variation of it. A couple different ways to play this is here I typically bring the knight out to f3. If our opponent pins, we're just going to play the move bishop to e2. And this does gambit the pawn in the center. And what we need to do here is there's 4 attackers on this pawn. And our opponent is attacking with the pawn first. So what we might need to do is find some way to defend this again. A move like bishop to e3 makes sense to me. But if we go through the entire line, I think that is just going to lose the pawn anyway. So bishop e3 takes, pawn takes, knight takes, bishop takes. And if our opponent then goes queen takes, bishop takes, then queen can come in and take the pawn. Which would not be great for us. So I think what we'll do instead here is we can't, we can't just castle. Or can we take the pawn? I don't think we can. I do wish I would have known this variation. It's a little bit unfortunate I don't. So maybe I push c4 here. Because then our opponent can't take and we can push through. So I'm going to go ahead and play c4, followed by d5. Then we play d5. Our opponent's knight can come in. And that at least got us out of that trouble. So now I think the next move is going to be castles. Just getting out of the center of the board. And continuing from here. So our opponent opts to take, which is fine. The knight comes in. And interestingly, we have this move, which doesn't quite work yet. And honestly, if they want to waste all the tempos that they've used to move that knight, I'm going to say that's okay. So let's go ahead. Let's give up the bishop. They opt not to take it. And now if I go bishop here, I'm asking them to take the pawn because otherwise we should win the knight. And we arrive in this position here. Now our opponent's coming through. I think it makes sense here to just take the time and develop another piece with knight to c3. I think we're actually in a completely fine position here. If I take back with the knight, I don't think there's a variation that goes super well for us. We could pin this pawn, but then our opponent pushes through. So in this case, what I'm tempted to do is play knight takes. After knight takes, then we play rook 81, which makes sense to me. So now the knight is pinned. Our opponent can bail out with taking the bishop. Then we take their queen. They take our knight. We take this with check first. I see no reason not to take this. And depending on where our opponent goes next, I like to move queen to f5 and maybe bishop to f4. But I think we have a pretty decent attack going here. Our opponent could just vacate here. They opt to go that way. So if I go bishop check, or sorry, queen check, the rook could block, but then we just play rook to d1. If our opponent moves over, we play bishop to f4, which hangs this. So I think we're just going to start adding some attackers. And that immediately hangs the rook. No need to overcomplicate the position. And our opponent resigns. So we get a little bit of a quick one today. GG's to our opponent. So let's look at the game review and see how we did. So on today's date, we played with an 88.4 and our opponent played with a 68. We played an Alpine Sicilian today, which I've been studying a little bit off recording. And we did find the correct moves. Where here we were already a little bit lost after castles. And this move surprised me a little bit. I do wonder if we could have just taken the pawn. D capture c5 is fine. I was also looking at bishop to e3 here, which would have been fine as well, and I believe castles may also even be a move here. But the best move in the position is actually just to play the move h3 and ask the bishop what it's doing, which is pretty thematic here in the Alpine Sicilian. But after long castles, we played c4 instead, which kicks away the queen and loses our chance. Our opponent goes queen to d7, and I don't know what the best variation is. I can't possibly imagine it's taking here. Our opponent, if they find the move queen to f5, piling more pressure on our pin, then that's the most dangerous line. So instead, c4, queen d7, d5, closing off the center, building a pawn chain. Bishop captures f3, bishop captures f3, and knight to d4. And here, we don't panic. We just go ahead, we castle our king. It's not the best move. Bishop to e3 is slightly better. But I figured getting our king out of the center is never a bad idea in these positions. So it's one of those moments I think goes to show you don't necessarily have to play the best move, you just have to play a practical move, right? So castles, knight f6, bishop e3, knight captures, queen captures, and we arrive in this position where I was feeling completely fine. I feel like we kind of minimized the position. Our opponent found the best move here with e6. After knight to c3, e captures and knight captures. After knight captures d5, we just bring the rook in. It might argue that rook f to d1 is slightly better because it defends these pawns, and the king pawns are pretty well defended. But rook 81, f6, rook captures d5, and now after queen to c6, we played queen f5 first. I slightly considered taking the rook initially. I also slightly considered the move rook f to d1, just piling some pressure. But I didn't love any of these positions. Even funnier here, it almost looks like I can't quite do that. I was like, do I have rook captures c5, but the bishop is there? But so we played queen f5, king to b8, and simply rook captures d8 check, which wins the rook. The only other variation here that they could potentially shoot for, which I still don't think is very good, is king to c7. And at that point, I would have probably played bishop to f4. The king is going to go ahead and come over. And at this point, I think I can take the rook. I can also, it says I can win the queen, but I don't see anything wrong with taking a free rook anyways. So our opponent resigns. We move to 1903, so we're finally back over 1900 after losing quite a few games in a row. Let's hope this streak continues. If you have comments for how I can play better, leave it down below. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, and then finally subscribe to the channel, and that just helps you make sure you don't miss any of my future content. And on that note, I will see you guys on the next day.